place they were hoping to be in? Okay. Can y'all hear me now? Okay, mic wasn't on. Good morning. Welcome to Workshop A101. This is Building a Digital Bridge. Is everyone where they hoped they would be? Okay, good. I think there may be a few more that trickle in this morning. I know the elevators were running at the speed of smell, so if it took a while to get down here, I took that from a comedian. That's not even my original joke. It's a good one though. It's a good one, yeah. So we've got folks joining us online. Welcome online folks. Special thanks to Sarah Bishop who's running our online group. We'll have some breakouts. Yeah, there's Sarah. Hey Sarah. We'll have some breakouts during this session. The way I like to construct workshops is that you get to interact because this is about what you're going to take from this and what you're going to do with it for your churches. So we'll have a lot of time for you guys to be thinking about some of the ideas that we're presenting, chewing on how you can take this back to your congregations and your churches and your ministries. So we will have time for breakouts. So the folks online will be broken out into groups. The folks here, you're already at tables and you'll do some work with those folks at your table. So if you want to change tables, here's your last or no, don't change. Please don't. No, you'll hurt everyone's feelings. My name is Cassie Waits. I'm the Associate Pastor for Discipleship at First Presbyterian Church of Marietta. That is just outside of Atlanta. If people are from Atlanta, I always tell them Marietta. If they're not, I tell them Atlanta. I've been leading workshops here for over 5 years. I've been at that church for almost 7. And it's this workshop comes out of some of the experiences we've had at our church. Presenting with me today is Dr. Joe Evans. He's our senior pastor at First Marietta, and this is his first time at AFC. But he knows so many people here. I don't know how, but he's jumped in with both feet, agreeing to do a workshop, and I'm so glad because he's got all the knowledge. This grew out of his dissertation project for his DMin, and so what he was reflecting on and where our church has been in the last few years post-COVID, using more and more technology. We started to think about how are we using it effectively? Is something happening with the use of technology that we didn't expect? And that's part of what we're talking about today. How is discipleship happening online in ways that have surprised us? And are there additional opportunities that we all could be thinking about in terms of discipleship using the tools that are available? In terms of housekeeping, we do have people online, so we've been asked to speak into the microphone if we will have time for the tables to report back. So we have a microphone we'll bring to you to report out if you should wish to do that. And that way everyone online can hear us as well. And the people online, you can communicate through Sarah. I believe you can put your thoughts in chat or she'll be able to pass those along. Let's open with a word of prayer. Loving God, you are faithful to us in every way. You call us, you pursue us, you do not rest until you have gathered us in. You speak to us in whatever way we might hear you. You become to us what we need. You are endlessly creative in reaching out to us. And you call us to share the good news with the world. You give us tools to equip us to share that good news. Lord, I pray that over this workshop and in this time that you would give us courage, that we might be endlessly creative in how we reach out and disciple your beloved children. In Christ's name, amen. Amen. All right. Okay. First order of business are introductions. Around your tables or in your groups on Zoom, share what's your name, where you're from, what your favorite digital tool or platform is. Regularly participate in online worship. For our congregation, we know that about our members attend on average twice a month. One of the weeks they're not there, we know there are folks that join online on the weeks they're not there. We know we have people who are in nursing homes, who are homebound, who are otherwise, we've had members down with pneumonia for a month who have joined online while they're not there. So what we learned, I guess, coming out of COVID, where everything was online for a while, the congregation got comfortable with worship online, and many of them do join that way when they need to now. But what do we do with that? If that many people are joining online regularly, what kind of worship experience are they getting? What do we do with it in terms of discipleship? If they're joining online worship, they may not be in Sunday school, right? They're missing Sunday school. They may be missing some other parts of their church experience that they would normally participate in. And how do we as a church respond faithfully to that? So I want to kind of reflect on where this all started. Like, why are we called to be network? Partly because our communities they're online, and they're participating online in lots of different ways, and they're also participating in church. So some of it's driven by where your congregation is. If the congregation is online, then it feels like the church should be there as well. It also has to do with some theology. So we're going to back up to Acts chapter 2. As Joe and I were developing this workshop, we kind of came back to the scripture as a starting point of why should we even care about being out there? Well, this is why. This is Acts chapter 2. This is 1 through 4 and 7 through 8. When the day of Pentecost had come, they, the disciples, were all gathered together in one place, and suddenly from heaven there came a sound like the rush of a violent wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. Divided tongues as of fire appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages as the Spirit gave them ability. Amazed and astonished, the crowds asked, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear, each of us, in our own native language?" So we kept coming back to the scripture because we noticed that the church isn't born in an upper room with locked doors, with a bunch of people gathered together, only together. The church's birth happens when they leave the room, and when they start to meet people where they are in the languages they speak, and perhaps the internet is a language of itself. And this is a place that we ought to be as a church. And it's a language of social media, if you want to call it that. It's a language that we might do well to start speaking and to start thinking about what does a relationship building look like when it's virtual. So in the Bible, making those connections took the Apostle Paul all over the world, or the known world at the time, all over the Mediterranean. And over the years, he made multiple journeys, traveling by boat, on land, traveling however he had to get to new places to either plant churches or encourage the churches that were already there and to nurture those communities. The good news is we don't have to take years on a boat and get shipwrecked and arrested and beaten and chased out of town in the process to reach people all around the world. So on the left, we've got a picture of Paul's missionary journeys, but on the right is a picture from, I'm not sure where this came from. Our live stream people know how to do this. This is where our live stream is reaching, like where our worship reaches, and it reaches to countries all around the world. And I feel like we're this little church in this little town, and somehow we've got, I don't even know, we know who some of the folks are, and we don't know who all of the folks are, which may also be a thing that we should work on. But technology allows us to make those journeys without having to take a boat, which is pretty incredible. So did y'all get to the Slido poll? Oh, yay, okay. All right, so what digital tools is your church using today? A lot of people using YouTube and Facebook. That doesn't seem too surprising. I like TikTok. I'm surprised by that. Our church hasn't figured that out yet. Canva, Zoom, Constant Contact, Facebook again, Zoom, Instagram, all these different ways of reaching out. And there's more than just this, but there may be some that you haven't seen yet. I will say we'll send the slides out to everyone in the group too, so don't feel too panicked that you need to take too many notes. We'll send them out at the end. Yeah. So a lot of different platforms in a lot of different ways, and many of these are free. You can pay extra if you need to, but a lot of them are free. And this is pretty in line. This was a poll done by PushPay. Does anyone churches use PushPay for online giving? Some they did a poll of a lot of churches, and you can see that a lot of churches aren't using online giving, but they did a poll to see what kind of digital tools churches were using, and live streaming. I mean, I couldn't believe how many churches are using live streaming. 90% live streaming, over 75% on Facebook, a little over 50% have a website that they work out of. Now, some churches just have Facebook, that's their website. But many churches still have websites, traditional websites, and then online giving is a little less than half. So our churches are moving online. We're moving online in certain ways, and in certain ways we maybe have some work to do. Okay, there's another, this is another question on your poll, and I haven't quite figured out how to do both things at once with my computer. So let me see if I can activate the second. Here's the second one. There you go. Is it up now? All right. This is another technology, if you ever want to use it, called Slido. Let's see here. All right, votes are coming in. They're coming in. All right. So these are ranked. Originally they were like 1 was most uncomfortable to 5 most comfortable, and it looks like most churches are around a 4, which is we're hopeful. We're not exactly sure how to use the technology, but we're hopeful. Which feels like a good place to be. In this room, a good place to be if you're hopeful. If anyone's uncomfortable or resistant, that's the harder hill to climb. That's a harder hill to climb. And I think every church has been at those different points at some point. Uncomfortable, resistant, fearful, I'm not sure about technology. We've got folks in our church that still don't understand online giving. They're like, why can't we just put in the offering plate? And there's some tradition, and there's also there's some importance to that physical act for them. And so getting a congregation to move from being physically in person to how do we do this online, it's not easy, and it's not overnight. We have a few members that are very excited and are trying to use ChatGPT for their Sunday school lesson, and I may have to pull them in on that. So you may have that as well. You may have some churches. You've got a few early adopters. They're out there. So hopeful. I feel like our church is in a hopeful place right now too. We're kind of in that place too. All right. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Joe to share us a little more of the philosophy behind all this.
Thank you, Cassie Waits. So, y'all, we know about the dangers of technology. We were just talking about how my new friend was just saying that we at a Zoom meeting might get 100% attendance for a session meeting if session meets on Zoom, but if the session meets in person, it might be more like 75, and how it can be tempting to think, I sure do wish we could just go back to the way things were before when people showed up in person. I know a lot of churches have thought about nostalgically, it sure would be great to just go back to the way it was before COVID. But I think it can be more helpful to really think about both the dangers and the opportunities that come with technology. And that's how all technology really is. You think about a technology as ancient as fire. Fire is dangerous, very dangerous, and keeps you warm, right? So cars are very dangerous. Cars are also super helpful. So when we get to like social media, there's been great research about the dangers of social media, especially in the hands of children, and what that can do to a teenage girl's self-esteem. But at the same time, we need to think about what are the opportunities there. Is it possible that the Spirit can use the technology of live stream for the advancement of the gospel? So to really take a deep dive into people who have studied what live stream technology specifically does to the church, my favorite scholar, you may have heard Cassie say that I just completed my final doctorate project at Columbia Theological Seminary studying the effects of COVID on First Presbyterian Church of Marietta. So I read a bunch of books on live streaming, and I did a bunch of interviews. And my favorite scholar on the subject is the one who wrote the book On the Right. I think y'all have all 3 of these books listed on one of your handouts. This book, On the Right, Network Theology, Negotiating Faith and Digital Culture, is mostly written by Heidi Campbell, as well as co-author Stephen Gardner. But Heidi Campbell's kind of the big name in understanding what happens when the church begins to embrace technology, especially live stream technology. She is she's a big time scholar, and she's written a bunch of stuff. But that was my favorite book, Network Theology. I also love The Digital Cathedral by Keith Anderson. And then when we think about the importance of human connection at the same time, I was really impressed by that Vivek Murthy book, Together. Anybody read that book, Vivek Murthy, Together? So Heidi Campbell observed that when the church begins to use the internet, it changes the church in 5 important ways. So the 5 traits of network religion, according to Heidi Campbell, are network community, storied identities, shifting authority, convergent practices, and multi-site reality. I'll get into each of those 5 in greater detail, but these are the 5 traits of network religion. In case you thought that it was just a simple, this is a good way to get to, it's nice to stream the service, but Heidi Campbell's really diving into what that does to the church when the church begins to live stream. So going into each of these 5 traits in greater detail. First, network community. The map that Cassie already showed you, this is the map of people who live stream the service from First Presbyterian Church of Marietta, Georgia, which has a sanctuary built in 1850. So like an old local parish begins to live stream, and the community, the people who can hear the gospel proclaimed from the pulpit of 189 Church Street, Marietta, Georgia, it can reach all the way to Australia. We even have, and this is an old map, this is like a 2020 map which charted who all is downloading our sermons, but we right now have 20 people who are downloading sermons in Sweden. I don't know how or why or anything, but you think about the impact that a local parish can have to a much wider audience just using technology. So the expanded, and I want you to also think about what that does to the self-esteem of a congregation. When the congregation learns that there are people in Sweden who are downloading sermons, or there are people in Australia who are taking the time to listen to the choir. Imagine what that does to the choir's self-esteem. In 2016, First Presbyterian Church had a split. 300 people left the church all at once. And so going into the pandemic, we were very much just a church who thought of itself as like wounded, or, the self-esteem of the congregation is low. But then when we begin to hear that there's somebody in Australia who's live streaming the service, what that does to your self-perception. So Heidi Campbell also recognizes that when the church begins to use the internet, it changes the way the church sees herself. She calls that storied identities. And the internet is doing that to us all the time. When we project ourselves onto the internet, so y'all know what an avatar is? Apple created for me an avatar, and this is the avatar that I created. And do you notice any differences between that avatar and me? None. I look exactly. So I gave myself a lot more hair, and then I'm trying to decide how much hair I really want to have. But I'm projecting an idealized version of myself onto the internet. We do that all the time, like through dating websites. You do that all the time. Churches do that when they create websites. When a church creates a website, there's not a tab that says, these are our issues and here's where our conflict is. What you do is you project an idealized version of yourself onto the internet. And once you've done that, you begin to imagine yourself in a different way. Heidi Campbell's saying really that can be beneficial to a church to begin imagining a congregation where those divisive issues have a little less power. So storied identities. Then shifting authority. Y'all know technology is often shifting authority. Technology often empowers people. The picture on your left is of a printing press. And as Protestants, we all know the power of the printing press. That when Martin Luther he's in Germany, and if Martin Luther had written the 95 Theses and the printing press not existed, somebody could have just torn that document up. They would have burnt him at the stake. Protestant Reformation never happens. But instead, everything Martin Luther wrote was mass-produced on the printing press, and so the Protestant Reformation spread throughout Western Europe. The internet is mass-producing what churches are doing, and it is taking a lot of the power away from the clergy and putting it in the hands of people. There's been some studies, Heidi Campbell did some studies on what happens to imams, how when Muslims in certain neighborhoods, if they don't really respect the authority of their local imam, they can live stream an imam from another community. So the authority of the local clergy is diminished through the internet because all of a sudden you have access to all these other people. My father-in-law is a good example of doing this. My father-in-law is a Roman Catholic. Interestingly, my father-in-law raised 2 daughters. One of them married me, a Presbyterian minister. The other married a Methodist minister. So the Protestants have really invaded the Hernandez family. But what Rafael Hernandez does is he doesn't like his local priest. He likes to receive the sacrament, so he goes into town to receive the sacrament from his local priest, but the sermons that he listens to are from a priest in California. So the authority of that local priest begins to diminish. Authority shifts around a little bit with the internet. Yes, sir.
Like a lot of things, kind of like you said at the beginning of this, it's a double-edged sword, right?
Sure.
Because now
We got to mic him.
Sorry.
Oh.
They can't hear you on Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword, like you were saying earlier.
For sure.
Because there's also. Is it man? Okay.
Are we good now?
Oh,
okay, yeah.
Nice.
Okay, starting over, yeah. Like you were saying earlier, this is all a double-edged sword.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, social media, double-edged sword. The algorithm, right? And the algorithm is designed to, the thing that you see is the thing that's most likely to provoke an emotional reaction from you.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've been running into, and so I guess it's a 2-part question. First of all, okay, so what do we do about the congregation member who's listening to some Looney Tune in Tennessee
Yeah.
and is coming and saying, well, Pastor so-and-so is saying this?
Yes.
And the second part of that question is the self-reflective part of that, which is, should I be letting go of that need to control what they consume?
I think I hear what you're asking, and I don't think that you should think about that shifting authority as either good or bad, right? Because you're pointing to an example where it's bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, TikTok is exposing tons of, especially, have y'all heard about like this addiction to anger? How young men are exposed to like more and more extreme ideas through TikTok, and it's this is what you're talking about. The members of the congregation are choosing which messages and which preachers to listen to. What Heidi Campbell's saying is the authority is shifting. It's not good or bad. It's probably both. But recognize that it's shifting.
So it's shifting, and so I should accept it and let go of that control.
You have to, because you don't get to pick.
I think I'm about to let go of control.
Yeah. Okay, good. So yes, this is it. Yes, you don't have it. You don't have the control. That's right. You don't. The internet has taken the control away from us and put it in the hands of the members of our congregations. That's it. And that can be very bad. That can be very bad. I used to go to a Bible study at the Marietta Country Club with the senior pastor at First United Methodist Church, and he would look around and he'd say, I can't understand why the members of my church who listen to me preach all the time buy what this guy is talking about. You know, all we can do is proclaim the gospel and hope that the disciples in our congregations recognize the gospel for what it is. Because it's up to them. The message is coming in on their phones. Authority is shifting. Let me keep going and talk about a different one. Convergent practice. Convergent practice is related. So as my father-in-law received the sacrament at his local parish and listens to sermons from a priest in California, he is putting together his own distinctive faith practice. Another word that Heidi Campbell uses to describe convergent practice is bricolage religion. Y'all know bricolage, where like you take different fabrics and you put them together and you make a new piece of artwork. So what people are doing with their faith journey is they're reading the Bible app as their daily devotional. They're listening to the sermon at their local parish. They're going to Sunday school maybe they're going to a Bible study with people from college. People are putting together their own faith traditions. And the most interesting example that we have in our congregation in Marietta is the example of K-Power. So this bulletin cover is from Pentecost Sunday 2020. This was the coolest bulletin cover maybe that we've ever made, and nobody got it because it's during the pandemic and nobody came into the building to see it. But we worked super hard on it. We wanted to illustrate how the Holy Spirit through the internet was going out into the world just the same way the Holy Spirit pushed the disciples out into the world. And so we have a picture of people who we developed relationships with, who we knew were live streaming our worship service along with us. On the left, on the big copy, we have K-Power is the most interesting example. But because what K-Power did was she loved her Bible study at her local parish, which was just up the street in Australia. She's friends with a member of our choir, so what she would do is she would go to our local church for Bible study, she would live stream our service, and she said to me, you have enabled me to stay at my local church because now I know that not all of my spiritual needs need to be met right there. I'm no longer depending on my local church to meet all of my spiritual needs because I can put my own faith tradition together. Yes?
Couldn't you say,
Now he's got it.
couldn't you say in some ways
Yeah.
that there's a level of selfishness to that?
Oh.
In the sense that instead of, when things get hard,
Yeah.
instead of staying in the midst of the relationships
Yeah.
and things like that. Now, obviously,
Strong.
there are those pieces where you could say they're actually building community in multiple places and all that is good.
Yeah.
But then there's also that place where it's like, I don't like what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of challenging it or trying to think differently, instead they're like, well, I'm just going to go over here
Yep.
and do this to help my own ethos and my own theology versus trying to be expanding with the thing.
Yes, I agree with that. There's just like a selfishness to that. That's good, because relationships aren't easy. We take people with the good and the bad. We don't say, I'm going to be married to my wife Sarah because I like how she cooks, and I'm going to marry 4 other women who are better at these other skills that I need. Like, you don't get to do that with people. But people are doing that with their faith right now. Is this good or bad? I think we could argue that it's bad, but it's happening.
Right.
It's just, this is something that's happening. This is something that people are doing. And, there are members of our congregation who only come, Cassie, did you know this? There are members of our congregation who only come when you're preaching and who don't come when I'm preaching. And maybe the opposite is true as well. Like, people do this. People do this all the time. They're doing it to a greater extent now because the internet gives them the ability to do it. The last of the 5 is the multi-site reality. Andy Stanley's a big deal in Metro Atlanta. Y'all know Andy Stanley? Andy Stanley's just like, consider him your quintessential mega church, your Joel Osteen, your whoever. Andy Stanley has been preaching in over 100 churches every Sunday morning for years. We can think of the internet as the modern day circuit rider, because what it's enabling churches to do is it's enabling preachers to preach in multiple locations at the same time. Now, what does that mean, and what does that do? I think we could also argue that this is good and bad. But that book I showed you before, The Digital Cathedral is really a study on this, because we could think of this, if you have a big, well-resourced church, that big, well-resourced church is able to share resources with the smaller parishes around it. And we could, if we wanted to think of multi-site reality as being a very good thing, it's that a big church with a lot of money can now share stuff with other churches through the internet, preacher included. Now here's the big thing that Heidi Campbell's not really thinking about yet, but that Cassie and I have been thinking about. What happens when the church expands its reach digitally and relationships begin to develop digitally? What happens to are more people going to come physically into the building? Have you all thought about this? If we're live streaming, are less or more people going to come into our buildings? A lot of people have argued that it's going to be less. But if you look at what Taylor Swift did to Ticketmaster when she did an in-person tour, she broke Ticketmaster. Like, Ticketmaster is just holding steady on these low levels, and it spikes so high when Taylor Swift goes on tour in person. What we have to think about, what I think is really important for us as leaders and congregations to be thinking about, is how these 5 key traits of networked religion change the church in person. Those networked relationships can become in-person relationships. It'll just naturally happen. So we don't just live stream into the Cobb County Jail. The members of our congregation go into the Cobb County Jail. We don't just live stream into a neighboring congregation. The members of that congregation come over to our church for Bible studies and men's groups in person. This is maybe, I think, the most important point, is that some relationships that begin on the internet become something else. And when we live stream our services out, we can expect that more people are going to come in. Okay, I skipped. You had a question a long time ago, and I skipped you.
So when Charles made his point, I was trying to say another angle for us to look at is such options give us opportunity for dialogues. When we know that those members of our congregation are consuming sermons from other sources and they come with a lot of conversations, it must also give us the opportunity to listen, to have dialogue, and to be aware of what they are consuming, so that can also inform how we relate with them and how we structure our sermon, or how we do church, so that we can still stay relevant, not just to those who love us, but those who seems to consume elsewhere.
I love that. I love that. Thank you very much. I agree completely. All right, Reverend Waits.
All right. So just a little chance for y'all to think about and chew on what could this look like. Not at your congregation yet, just with a few case studies. We've got 3. We're going to see if we can make it through all of them. If we can't, we'll do the first 2. Our first case study, now this is your green handout on your table, or online they've got a folder they can pull from online. I'm going to read it and then give y'all about 7 minutes to talk through, and then we'll come back and debrief. Case study number 1, these are around 3rd grade Bibles. Anyone do 3rd grade Bibles? Like about 2nd grade Bibles, somewhere in there. All right, here's the situation. A new family who lives 10 hours away are regular online worshipers. They're active on your church's social media. They're enthusiastic about its ministries. With session approval, they join the church via Zoom. In a few weeks, you will present the 3rd graders with student Bibles, which they are encouraged to read and use in Sunday school. As you are ordering the Bibles, an elder calls to remind you that the new family has a daughter in 3rd grade, and they wonder how you will include her. What do you do? I'm going to call all y'all back. I want to start actually with the folks online and make sure if there are any questions about. Well, let me start with. Would the folks online like to offer what they came up with? Sarah, would your online? Sorry, would your online people folks want to say what they've come up with?
Our online folks were also very thoughtful and thinking about how to conclude them. And so we had a few who mentioned that it's important to ship an actual Bible to that family. And one person, Hada, mentioned that they'd make sure that we named that person even in the service and that presence there. One person, Leah, thought it could be even nice to do a virtual meeting with them and make sure they got to do that special part of the presentation.
All right, thank y'all. All right, so some ideas on how to handle that. Now, of course, there are some theological questions I heard y'all wrestling with, right? Like, how is this person going to use it in Sunday school if they're 10 hours away? I mean, how is the church fulfilling their obligation at baptism, but also how is this child practically, how does this work? But some options, shipping them the Bible, setting up a virtual meeting. Tell me the last one. I've already forgotten it.
Actually acknowledging them in the service, naming them.
Naming them in the service. So you could even have their name in the bulletin if you had that. Other groups that would like to share what y'all thought of.
This group talked about the security issues of having, this group, not me, but this WISE group, talked about the security issues of naming children online and in open live streaming situations. And so that we kind of went down that trail.
Yeah, so there are some challenges.
And ways we could overcome that.
What'd y'all come up with to overcome it?
Consents, parental consents.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. That's a good observation. Other things that came out.
I didn't say this at the table, but the one sentence that caught my attention the most was that next to last sentence when it says, as you are ordering the Bibles, an elder to remind you. And just, if this is a true story, having an elder that notices that is a wonderful thing. But to be intentional about those people who are online and their needs and just paying attention to their stories. When I first was hearing this, I heard it as the parent reached out to the church and said, hey, how are you going to engage my child? And I'm thinking, that's not going to happen. Those people online, they feel distant. And most likely they're not going to say, hey, here's my need, can you fill it for me? But how can we be attentive enough to see those needs and meet them before they're even spoken?
Yeah. Thank you. That's great. Other thoughts? Right, back table, yeah.
So I've been thinking about what happened even before this. Years before this, right? For those of us that come out of a covenantal theology, the baptismal questions, how is this church nurturing this family, this young person, and now they've received their Bible, how does that nurture continue? What does that look like?
Yeah.
So we had two different ideas. One was to put some people in a car and drive the 10 hours and either record it or be there live, to do it. Yeah, John's not going, but it's his idea. The other was, Edie was talking about how weeks before they put out the Bibles to sign, and congregants all sign them, so to do that with that Bible. But then also the idea of splicing them in via Zoom, like if it's Zoom, to actually have them receiving it at the same time, and to name them and have them see. I mean, they might not be able to see as well out, but at least kind of knowing that they're being included.
Yeah. Such creative idea. And I imagine 10 years ago, we wouldn't have even if the technology had been there, we might not have thought of these options. So, yeah. Great. All right. All right. Oh, yes, Sarah. Another.
I think I'm just blown away by we've all said yes. Like, how long ago in our past would we have had this deeper conversation and the first answer would have been no? I mean, that to me has been very impressive of this move into the digital age, as we are all saying yes, and then what would that look like?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. All right. Another chance to say yes. Case study number 2, Sunday school. I know a lot of educators at this conference, right? Sunday school. One of your adult Sunday school teachers has moved into assisted living with their ailing spouse, so other end of the spectrum. She is eager to stay connected to the class, even to continue teaching, but she is unable to attend in person on Sunday mornings due to caregiving. The class is adamant that this teacher continue with their class and have a way to participate each week. They ask for your help. What do you do? 7 minutes. All right, everyone, I'm going to call us back together. In the grand tradition of this case study, which is about how do you engage somebody who is a little distant, we're gonna have the Zoom folks answer first again. I think they can be put on the screen and see what they came. Oh my gosh! Look at everyone. That's a great group. All right. What did I don't know how y'all want to do this. Who wants to be the speaker for y'all? But what did y'all come up with online?
Roberta, you be the speaker.
Okay. We talked about the need for I'm sorry, am I getting feedback or
No, you're good.
okay. We talked about churches that have a digital deacons who feel comfortable stepping into that role and building a bridge between the in-person congregation and the party that is in a separate site, which sounds like a wonderful idea. Also, how you educate a congregation that's been strictly in person to even imagine the role of having a digital community that interacts with those in person, and just the whole, and just having an appropriate set of expectations of how long, how do you get from the 1950s to suddenly the 21st century in terms of making full use of this technology, and even how to go about putting yourself out there technologically, to see who might be in the virtual world that connects with you.
Good. So assigning it as a role in the church is one option, and having that person really develop those groups. Any other thoughts from the folks online that weren't raised yet? Okay. All right. Thank you, Roberta. Thank you for being the spokesperson, Roberta. All right. In the room, what do you do? What y'all come up with?
We already do this. We have some classes on Sunday mornings, on Thursdays, on Wednesdays that are in a hybrid format. We also have people that are church members that will go stay with the spouse so that the other spouse can come in person if they so want to do so. Some have caregivers that will stay, so we're already doing this.
How long have y'all done it?
Since COVID began.
COVID, that was the kind of a trigger.
Nice. Thank you.
Other thought? Anyone else doing it already? Doing hybrid type? Yep. Okay. A lot. All right. Someone's being voluntold to share.
During COVID, got a grant, I think, for some tablets. And also, I was, you know how you just see infomercials about different things. So I attended like a webinar for GrandPad. GrandPad is an item for older adults, and it only has limited buttons, and it has a special help button that you just press to connect. And I was saying, if we get one of these for this lady, she'll be able to still be online and teach Sunday school from wherever she is.
A grand pad, like an iPad, but grand.
Grand, like grandparent. The other one that we talked about was, who's to say that they couldn't shift the time and move to the assisted living facility and like bring lunch, either do it a different time of day or like have it post-worship, bring lunch, and then that way, not only her, but we're guessing her ailing spouse might also be one who used to attend.
Yeah.
So and other people. And then that might actually go back to networking, and other people at the assisted living facility might also actually appreciate attending as well. And it might grow from there, which might, not that it's about members, but it might end up actually bringing more people to interested in your church.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So similar to the drive the 10 hours and deliver the Bible in person, if this person's local, even if they're not fully local, this is next year's workshop is about driving 10 hours. Why not bring the class to this person, especially if that's doable, if it's manageable? You could do it regularly. Other thoughts? Anything else This was a little more straightforward. Some of y'all are already doing this. I'm reflecting on our own church. We flipped into online Bible study, online Sunday school very quickly during COVID, and then as soon as it was over, it was like we flipped back out. And so those with the creative imaginations, have asked for things like this. Can we go back to hybrid? And our church is kind of in that place of, but we're in person and trying to navigate that. But why not? Why not? And to the point that was just made, why not? Because there may be plenty of other people eager to be part of a Sunday school right there in your neighborhood, right down the street, and all it would take was you to bring it to them or to make it available so they could join online. Okay, with some of that creative juice going, we're going to move into creating a roadmap. But before we go to that slide, there's one more Slido question to reflect on. And this is, what existing relationships does your church have? So think about it this way. You've got all these members in your church. Let's say some of them come twice a month. Some of them join online regularly. Some of them are joining online because they have to. Do you have folks in nursing homes? Do you have folks that are homebound? Do you have folks, do you have a special relationship with certain organizations in your town or beyond your town? Like, what relationships does your church have right now? Just begin thinking about that, because this will play into the roadmap that you're making, and you can put those down on the slide. It's a free answer. So the jail. There are people in jail that may be in your town. Yeah. There may be some of your members yep. And some of these may be mission relationships your church has. Could be care relationships. Pretty good list. All right, we'll keep that up for just a minute, but lots of different connections that your church has, and some of them may not be clearly a religious connection. Some of them are people in your town that you have for whatever reason. The Rotary Club meets in your building. That's a relationship that you have. Maybe there's something that you can use there. Okay, those are your existing relationships, and we're going to move respond to, again, who's missing, what relationships can be deeper, what resources are you already using, and how could a digital bridge make a difference with those groups. So we've had some groups that we've brainstormed. You guys know what resources and tools your churches are using now. So the yellow page on the, I think everyone has. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. 5 minutes to start on this, at least start on the front of it, which is just describing some of those relationships that your church has. And as you go to the back, this is kind of helping you think through. Pick 2 of the relationships, think through the needs, think through ways you can make the connection stronger. The purpose of this handout is half homework, to be thinking about the relationships and to start drilling down into what's the thing you could do to take that first step. I hand it to Joe Evans. As some of y'all had kind of raised, some of those case studies were based on some real experiences our church has had. And so Joe's going to kind of give y'all the final kind of wrap up on what has this meant for our church and what it could mean for yours. I know that people are at different stages. There are some churches that are really fluent in some of these things already and some that may be starting out. And so hopefully all of y'all got what you needed from this session, but we just wanted to share a little bit of what this has done for our congregation and how it's broadened their imagination as well in terms of who is the church, and it's not just the people that are physically in our building. So,
thank you, Reverend White. So y'all, I mentioned before that Cassie and I served the Lord in a church that has a sanctuary that was built in 1850. So when Ma Bell first brought telephones to Marietta, Georgia, the pastor at the time, Dr. Patton, had a telephone installed in the pulpit. And some of y'all will know that, like, when phones first came to a town, you didn't have multiple lines. You had like a party line. So that everybody has the same line, and if you pick up the phone, you could listen into someone else's conversation. What Dr. Patton would do is, as he's beginning the worship service, he just takes the phone off the receiver, and everyone on the party line can listen in. So imagine with me, as we wrap this up, imagine with me how that changed what that made the congregation in the sanctuary start to think about. How did that change the worshiping congregation who were there inside the sanctuary? What Cassie and I are really trying to get at here is that our church started to change as far as empathy goes. When the congregation started to learn that we were live streaming into the jail, the way we started live streaming into the jail was I just happened to run into the Cobb County Sheriff at an event, and it was the pandemic restrictions were beginning to lift, and I asked the sheriff if worship services had been restored to the jail, and he said, even though the pandemic has lifted, we're still so nervous about viruses coming in, so we're not letting outsiders come in at all. And I said, well, would you consider providing our live stream to the men and women of the Cobb County Jail? And he said, yeah. Sure, that would be easy for me. That would be great. So we began to meet with the Cobb County Jail staff and figure out how to get the technology in. When the congregation heard that this was something that we were doing, pre-pandemic, the jail's out of sight, out of mind. When the congregation heard that we were live streaming into the Cobb County Jail, one guy in particular says, well, we got to start going out there. And I was like, Jeff, you can't. You can't go into, there's too much red tape, it's impossible. Well, Jeff is one of those members of a church who doesn't take no for an answer ever. And so I take Jeff to meet with the administrative staff of the Cobb County Jail, and Jeff begins to just shoot out a million ideas. Fortunately, the Chief Deputy Rhonda Anderson took one of those ideas and said, yeah, we can do that one. The idea that Jeff gave Chief Deputy Rhonda Anderson was, could we cook for the jail staff on the 4th of July? The jail staff who has to work on the 4th of July, we would like to cook for them. So we did. And they loved Jeff's food, and they asked him to come back and cook again on Thanksgiving. Well, now the jail staff has become his advocate. They trained Jeff to be in charge of the whole chaplaincy program. Jeff is now the main chaplain at the Cobb County Jail. And they're touring him around, and they take him into the jail library. And guess what? There aren't any books in the jail library. So Jeff comes back to the congregation and says, y'all know we've been live streaming at the jail. We need a book drive. They can only be paperback, flooded with books. And the church librarians, y'all have a church library? We had a church library. We had 2 retired church librarians who were so frustrated because they get to process like 5 books a year. They processed 4,000 books at the jail library last year. 4,000. So all of a sudden, our congregation that had no relationship with the jail whatsoever now has a meaningful one, but it started with live stream. The same's been true with a sister church that's 5 miles away. John Knox Presbyterian Church is 5 miles away. First Presbyterian Church helped found John Knox Presbyterian Church years ago. John Knox was doing great. They have their membership, however, recently in the last 25 years has declined to 45 members. They can afford to maintain their property. They cannot afford to pay clergy, part-time or full-time. And they were spending tons of money on supply preachers. They started live streaming our sermon, just the sermon. They have liturgists who now come to our worship meeting, take our bulletin, and the liturgist at John Knox lead the liturgy, but they depend on us to live stream the sermon. And that has changed the relationship between John Knox and First Presbyterian Church. One member of the choir at John Knox went on the choir tour to Scotland with the First Presbyterian Church choir. Men go back and forth to the different men's groups. Women go back and forth to Presbyterian women. It has reinvigorated a relationship that had declined since First Presbyterian Church helped found the church years ago. And now it's been going on a year. What happened when we started to live stream into area retirement communities? Who said if you go to the retirement community, you'll influence more people? So this is the deal. We started live streaming into Sterling Estates. That's the picture on the left. You see how many people are in that picture? Sterling Estates will have like 25 people live stream the service. I think 3-4 of them are members. They just invited friends to come. And then 2 of the members who are live streaming in that picture are elders on the session, so they serve communion. Isn't that cool? I think that's just amazing. Our homebound communion numbers, we would serve homebound communion pre-pandemic to whoever requested it. It'd be 4 or 5 people a year. Now we serve homebound communion at least 25 times a month because it's just, our homebound ministry has gotten exponentially better as it relates, because of live streaming. The picture on the right, anybody over 90 at First Presbyterian Church will sing you happy birthday. The woman who's looking at the screen, we're singing her happy birthday. She's watching us. She's watching the church sing happy birthday. The choir heard about this kind of stuff and said, why don't we just go sing her happy birthday in person? So now members of the choir go around to the area retirement communities to sing happy birthday. So y'all remember that it's just like the phone. The phone's off the receiver. The congregation's more aware that there are people at home who can't get into this building, and they start to do something about it. The 10 miles away, third grade Bibles, 10 miles away. 10 hours away, not 10 miles. 10 miles is easy. 10 hours away. Okay, so the third grade Bible, we had to decide what to do about third grade Bibles, whether or not we would send one to London, England. The family on... Yeah. The family on the left, we developed it. They start to live stream our service online because we had It's like the friend of a friend situation. Y'all know how that works. The world gets real small when you have friends. So the Price family tells Tula and her family that they should live stream our service from Marietta, Georgia, even though they live in London, England. Well, they're live streaming the service. Tula and her daughter Hannah and her granddaughter Harriet are live streaming the service from Marietta, Georgia. We're baptizing a baby, and little Harriet says, "Grandma, I've not been baptized." So Grandma says, "I guess we got to go to Marietta." So they fly into Marietta, Georgia, so we could baptize Harriet. Harriet's the little girl in the white dress. Y'all know the big question here. If the congregation is going to make this promise, can we really baptize the baby? And the session says, yes, we'll figure out how to do this. Third grade Bibles get given out. Harriet's in third grade. And so what a member of our staff, what an elder really did, it was a deacon. A deacon says, if third grade Bibles are going out, we got to send one to Harriet. So an officer of the church did say, we need to include all of these people, because the family wasn't going to say it. An officer of the church says, if we're sending third graders Bibles, we have to send one to Harriet. And so this is a video of Harriet opening up her Bible.
It's a very special gift for you.
Grab that thing up.
It's a Holy Bible of my own. It's my own special Holy Bible. Thank you, thank you. I really love it. Thank you for sending me this. Thank you.
Isn't that great? It's amazing. I think we're out of time now, but just to close, I think this is the point. Here's the church. Here's the steeple. Y'all, we have to open the doors. We have to be sending disciples out into the world. We have to be building relationships with those who are outside our walls. Thank y'all so much.
One last announcement. If you did not sign up for this session but would like the slides, we have the roster. I'll find the. Oh, you have the roster. The roster's up here. Thank y'all for being here. If y'all have any questions, we'll hang around for a little bit afterwards. So thank y'all. Thank you, everyone online.
Guys, can you give me digital copies of the handouts?
Yeah.